Hey, Verona, what's going on? How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing good. It hasn't been 45 minutes that we're just trying to get the streaming going and the everything's not working, but let's pray Jesus
Yeah,
that it's
yeah.
gonna work this time. But other than that, I'm good. I just released my French album, got a big show last week. It was fun, and now I'm really excited to do this co-reaction. It's been a while. We haven't done it for like I think 6 months or something. Yeah. Because
It's been since the Lady Gaga Bruno
yeah.
Mars video that we did. And part
Yeah,
of it
exactly.
was because there were so many technical issues. In fact, we have done this part of this video already.
Yes. We have to stay natural and just woohoo.
I know, but that's cool. That's cool that you had your album release. We are working on our upcoming album release that I can't say. Yeah,
Oh,
we
yeah.
both of us are releasing new music. So actually, this
Awesome.
is a really good time for you to tell anybody who maybe this is their first Cardivox Academy video a little bit about you, who you are, just briefly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a singer-songwriter from Quebec, Canada, and yeah, so this album was my first in French because I speak English and French, and yeah, with the pandemic, I decided to, you know, do shows closer to home, so write in my language, and so yeah, it's been a project that took like 2 years and a half, and it's disco, new disco, we call it new disco, but
Mm-hmm.
for the live version, we made special arrangements, like musical arrangements to transform like the last song or two. Um, we called it disco metal. And it was a great success because my musicians like they're jazz musicians and we do a lot of soul and R&B and all that, but they're also metalheads. So when I started working with Cardivox, they were like, "Oh my god, we have to do." I mean, we both wanted to do kind of a metal influence in this, and
Mm-hmm.
it works great. And it's kind of like what the band we're gonna review today did. They merged two styles, EDM and metal. So I'm like, why not disco and metal? And it really, I have to send you the video. It was awesome.
Yeah, I am very interested in seeing it. I really want to see it.
Yeah.
Because that's an interesting sounding combo. And
Mm.
for anybody who's tuning into this video, so these videos that we do, I also am a vocal coach, but I specialize in harsh vocalization, extreme metal vocals, and also singer songwriter, I guess, screamer songwriter maybe. But these videos that we do, they are much more long form, they are much more podcasty, because it's a lot of fun comparing our knowledge. And we've had some points where we're like, yeah, exactly, and we've had some points where we kind of disagree as well. And people love like we were talking about belting, you were like, we do it this way, and I was like, we do it this way.
Yeah,
um
yeah. And I
and
forgot to say
so
I'm a vocal coach. Yeah, I'm a vocal coach.
yeah, like we
Sorry.
both teach singers and screamers for a living. So it's a longer format. It's very podcasty, but they're a lot of fun. People enjoy these. So Electric Callboy elevator operator. If anybody's watching this video, they know who Electric Callboy is. We've both reacted to and analyzed Electric Callboy independently. So what
But
do
I
you say
didn't
we
hear that one. I didn't hear that one yet.
Yeah, I've heard the first like 30 seconds. And then I was like, oh, I should save this. This is a perfect one for Verona and me. So
Awesome.
what do you say we just jump into it?
Yeah, yeah. Let's just. I mean, so far it's working. No technical issues. Let's just do it.
Yeah, we've already lost 45 minutes of our like scheduled
Precious
meeting time. So let's go. Okay, Electric Callboy, elevator operator. Here we go.
You heard about a man, the lift controller, the lever king. I told you, hop in and let the journey begin. Shake a shiny face, letting someone for all his face. So full of grace, I just wanna get it up and down. We're moving on around, we're going up and down. We're moving on around. I wanna show you my world, where the beat goes up and down. Let me open the door. Elevator operator.
And that's where I'm gonna pause it. And that's where I'm gonna pause it, just because I know it's gonna make some viewers mad. So that's right. So when I watched this, I got right up to where the dude pops out of the elevator, and then I heard his singing, and I got up to like that vibrato, and I was like, pause. I was like, Verona and I, we got to talk about this. So What are your thoughts so far? We haven't really we got a little bit of all three. We got like some rapping, some screaming, some singing.
And the singing, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We had like 3 different techniques. But I think they all share that they're not using too much air. Like nothing was breathy in what I heard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about the scream, but I think it was. Of course, they're always like super well balanced and clean, super pop, contemporary singing. But yeah, I love the rap. It made me think of what's their name again? I'm gonna only got
$20 in my pocket.
like in the like because of the
Macklemore.
humor. Yeah, because of the humor, you know. So yeah, I loved it, and the clip is so funny. And then when the guy in the elevator arrives, just makes you lose it after the big scream, like emotionally, just like Kah. Yeah, but regarding what were your questions regarding that part, like vocally? Because it's just so fast. I was just enjoying myself, really. I was not even even analyzing. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So the first thing that kind of comes to mind, the first question I had, and we've talked about this a little bit, but it's a good question for people who may be new. Everybody can hear pop music and say this is pop music, but defining the things that make pop singing, you know, putting it into sort of understandable terms can be kind of tricky because pop is very broad. So when you hear that, especially as somebody who, you know, has a lot more expertise than me in that area, what are some things that you're hearing both technique wise and maybe even mix and production wise that are saying like, hey, there are some very strong elements of pop going on here? Because that's something I think a lot of people might find interesting.
Yeah, that's true, because I do say that, like, oh, it's pop, like it sounds pop, and why? So the first thing that's going to make your voice more pop or contemporary is going to be removing the excessive vibrato. So like straight notes, really straight. And that kind of, and also of course they're using like autotune and stuff. That doesn't mean they don't sing on pitch. It's just kind of an effect that everybody uses because it kind of makes the voice pop more out in the mix. It helps with the 4K frequencies and stuff like that. Like it helps to hear more the pronunciation. Sometimes I put it on my vocals at like 1%. Usually when you hear the autotune, it's around 30, 40, 50%. So it's like really almost nothing. It's just for the mix purposes, but it makes everything sounds clearer. So the use of autotune will automatically almost make you sound pop and polished. Okay. But if you use autotune on a vibrato, it sounds like robotic. So that's why we like to sing really straight notes. I remember I was talking about that in my first reaction of Epica. Simon. And I was telling that she took her classical placement, her operatic placement, and she kind of toned it down a bit. She kind of everything that was so stretched and open, she kind of brought it a little bit less open. And one thing she was doing to remove the classical vibes to her sound was removing the vibrato. And I remember when I was a teenager, when I came from opera training to pop training, that's the first thing my coach told me: remove your vibrato.
Yeah.
It's so hard when you get it like automatic. It's really hard. So that's the first thing I noticed. And then there's like, of course, the production and but higher larynx, I would say also. Like neutral or high. There's no low larynx really in pop, because that's really like more classical, and jazz also have a lot of low larynx. Who else? So yeah, it's less common to lower your larynx. We can hear what you're saying. Like it's kind of closer to your talking voice.
Sure. You actually said something that I have never even considered before, which is the relationship of, vibrato. Like of course there's vibrato in pop music, but you're right. Like I've noticed there's a lot less. Like he has one section where there's a little vibrato, but the fact that the removal of vibrato is directly tied to the ideally gentle use of autotune, because you're right. In Kardashev, I sing all the time. all the time, sometimes more than I wish I did. And that's very true. You know, we like sometimes people are like, oh, they think they've found out some secret, but I have absolutely, you know, done this exactly what you're talking about with autotune and stuff, just to like clean it up and make it sit nice, not to fake the notes. And you're right, when you get vibrato, it sounds really like to me, it sounds like a robot, like garbling underwater. It's terrible. And so I never really thought like, hey, for me, it was always just something I was having to work around. I never really thought about how that could impact the style of vocal. And it's interesting because there are other instances of that as well. Like opera, for example, it is affected by the fact that it was built to be big in opera houses. So that's why there's a lot more, or I should say a very different emphasis on resonance and volume than there is in pop. You know what I mean? That's fascinating. I never thought about that.
Yeah, and in opera, having a vibrato is a sign that everything's healthy and loose and opened. So they are looking like in opera lessons, you're looking for that vibrato. You want it. In pop, we also want it here and there, but I mean, I didn't even hear his vibrato. I will have to listen back again, but usually the vibrato happens at the end. So you're going to have your straight notes and then you're vibrating. And you also want the vibrato, like if you would open your voice in Melodyne, the software that you know probably about it, but it's basically very fun. I use it with my students online and in person just to show them not if they're on pitch or not, but we can really see the voice because otherwise we don't see anything. So it's really fun to use it also just to know what we're doing. And like a vibrato that would not be affected badly by autotune would be a vibrato that is exactly, and I'm being super picky, exactly in the note. So if you're singing a C, you want like the sinus wave to be exactly like the highest is going to be C plus 50 and the lowest is going to be C minus 50. If you're over that, oh my God, the autotune's going to fuck your voice. So it's a training about the speed of the vibrato and the length of the vibrato. So that's also a characteristic that's going to make you sound really more contemporary and pop. Yeah. Anyways.
so no church lady vibrato. Oh no.
If it's too slack, oh my God, it's not gonna sound pop. Yeah, and you also want it to be pretty fast. Like if it's too slow, like me after classical training, I did jazz training, and then I slowed. My vibrato was so fast in classical, way faster than in pop, and then I slowed it down for blues and jazz. And then when I went to cover bands, that was too slow. It was sounding. So yeah, you have to. I have exercises for the vibrato speeds, and it's really fun. And also, I have exercises if you don't have a vibrato and you want to unlock it, because sometimes people just are able to do straight notes, which is fine. But it's fun to end with a vibrato. It's really, it adds the professional vibes to it.
A little polish. You know, it's interesting, and we'll talk. I'll set the stage, and then we'll talk about it after a little bit more of the song here. But it's interesting, you know, a lot of the stuff that you're talking about that makes contemporary singing and pop singing what it is also the same thing or the same things that make screaming what they are. The way that it's placed, with the focus on the even airflow, the focus on, like, you don't hear vibrato in screams, right? So you know what I mean? So that would be, oh no, here, far away. That would sound and that's not even really vibrato. I was just pulsing.
That's a gut. Tremolo. Yeah, you're just start on off. Yeah,
exactly. Let's listen to a little bit more, and then we'll talk some screaming. But
please, yeah.
So far, this is very Electric Callboy.
Yes, it's all over the place. I love it.
Yeah. Let's keep going.
I really wanna be like him. I wanna be with him. Forget about that. Heads up in the sky, and we keep getting high. Imagine down in this level that you cannot deny. We're glowing light, keep shining bright. I cannot wait to get inside. Still out of sight. When we wanna go up and down, we're moving on around. We're going up and down. We're moving on around. I wanna show. Beat goes up and down. Let me open the door.
Okay, I let a little bit more of it play. So let's talk some screams. Oh, and we both were like, oh, there's that vibrato. And
There's just one place.
just one spot.
One
And it sounds
spot,
really nice too. I think it sounds really nice.
Yeah, but it was a speed that would fit the speed of the song. You know, it's not too slow, it's not too fast. It's just that's another thing you need to like consider. Sometimes you don't like your voice because your vibrato is just not the good speed. Anyways. But yeah, the screams are nice. There's like the really high ones and there's like the low ones. Can't wait to be able. I'm doing your course right now. Can't wait.
Yeah, so you know, it's really interesting. The progression of the song, I don't know if they did this on purpose, but it's written in a way that is similar to how you can teach making vocals sound good, right? And I'll explain to you what I mean. So at the beginning, now listen, I am no rapper. I'm not gonna try. And like, does that count as rapping? I guess maybe. I don't know, but
I'm sure you could be. I mean, in my opinion, all the singers should be able to rap too. It's like
I can do it, but I sound like a white 36-year-old dad in the suburbs, which is exactly what I am. You know what I mean? Like very, very not good. But you know, at the beginning, I don't remember the lyrics, but he's dum pum pum pum, and he talks like this, very in the front, and it sort of reminds me a lot of like, you know, Fred Durst. You know, chocolate, starfish, and hot dog flavored water, or like Zach De La Rocha, like, you know, some of them that burn crosses are the same that hold office, like that sort of thing, right? And then if we use that same, you know, and when we do that, you can hear it's very, it's very pouty. That's, you know, oh, I want to go on an elevator, rah! Now, a lot of times when people do these screams, I'm hearing two separate types of screams, by the way. The main one that he leans into is much more like false chord heavy, and then that really high, bright scream, that's fry as heck. That's fry scream as heck, right? But if I take this same, like, you know, yo, hey, yo, hey, yo, hey, yo, I want to get blah, 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 right? It has that like tough guy metal vibe. And so it's interesting that he starts talking just like that and then leads into a very similar delivery in that distortion. You know what I mean? Kind of funny.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And it's, again, these are sort of things that, you know, the placement of being masky, being forward, you know, not to, while he's screaming, you know, his voice is very steady. His airflow is super, super even. And one thing I really like about, I always forget their names. People always tell me, and I'm like, I'm going to remember. And then I don't. One thing I really like about his screams is there is a really like well-controlled balance of true chord pitch. That high scream is pitchless. But there's a really, really nice balance of true chord phonation with the distortion happening above it, right? It's one thing to just throw pitch into your screams, and it's another to be able to control that ratio in a way that's well blended and healthy and controlled. And you can do it in ways that sound very black metal, in ways that sound very hardcore, or you can do it in ways that work for EDM, metalcore, pop music. And it's hard to do. I like even that balance. Like, I'm not going to try to replicate it because that balance is very different than what I do, but it's tough.
So you think it's like, I thought it was layers maybe of tracks, but maybe I would have to, you think he was doing a pitch in his scream? Wow.
Now, one thing that often will happen though is like just in like harsh vocal production. Now, I'm not a producer, so when I'm speaking about this, I'm talking from the perspective of the guy who's getting his voice mixed and mastered, and I'm standing in the corner being like, "Oh, that's interesting." Oh,
yeah,
you know,
you know, you've been watching producers, yeah,
exactly, for a very long time. So I know a couple things, but you know, it is true that sometimes what will happen is you'll have a pitch scream and then you'll put a layer under that's a little bit more pitch forward, and then like quiet it down and smooth it out, right, to help it sort of sit. Because one thing that happens a lot in metal is the composition, the guitars, they'll just swallow up the low end of your scream. I've had screams where I intended them to be fairly pitched, and then in the mix all we hear is the on the top. So it's possible that there are layers going on there, but yeah, there are a whole variety of pitch screams, and that's definitely what I'm hearing here. Very well controlled, and very, very smooth and easy once you get down how to do them. It doesn't hurt at all, which is always kind of cool to show people, you know?
Can't wait to be able. I have to practice a lot this year. It's my 2025 goal. To
Well,
be able to scream.
You already know. So granted, it's been a long time since we did
It's been a long time, yeah.
But you were rocking some.
No, I don't know anymore. I don't know anymore. I'm not gonna do it on camera.
Just do the game show buzzer. That.
I don't know how you do it.
Wow.
I have to practice. I have to listen back to our lessons. But yeah, because of my album, I was like, okay, let's not mix my techniques for now. I want to have my best clean vocals.
Sure.
Then, once it's done, so now it's done, and I'm just going to practice my false vocal cords and everything. Yeah.
It's gonna be sick. It's gonna be sick.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna be a good surprise, I think, in the shows. Even for my French project, at the end, if I can have a little scream in my disco metal arrangement, just for that, it's gonna be amazing. But I had a question. Like, is it so when you teach, like, for example, if you would like that type of sound that there's scream and then a little bit of pitch behind, do you start with the pitch and you add the distortion, or you start with the distortion and then you add the pitch?
That's a great question. It depends a little bit on the student, right?
Okay.
It depends a little bit on the student. So let's say the student doesn't necessarily have anything wrong with their voice and they're very new. So, they can be like, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. And maybe they're not like a great singer, but there's no tension, there's no pain, there's no difficulty. I would actually start them with the distortion first. And usually, even if they're not going for a false chord endpoint, usually what I'll do is I'll teach them just the most basic false chord distortion, right? Just the most basic false chord distortion, because it's super relaxed. Then from there, what we'll do is, depending on the type of pitch scream they want to do they want to do like crazy, dark, evil sounds, or do they want to do more metalcore sounds? What we'll do is we'll introduce the pitch in different ways. For a lot of stuff where it's higher and brighter and more forward, what we do is we jump across the vocal break, right? So we'll start up here. Hey, hi guys, what's going on? But when we drop into the distortion. Hey. Wow. And then what we do over time is, like, I use the analogy of like a red square on top and the blue square on bottom. And then we start sliding and we look for the purple in between.
Okay, wow.
And it takes time, and I rarely start a student there. But if they're looking for these, which like are like a projected sort of head voicey, vocal breaky mixture of things, that's the way we do it. Now, let's say, for example, they try to use their singing voice and there's tons of strain and they're all tense. Then I send them over to you.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually,
that's what's been happening.
We have a couple students right now that we're not sharing them as much as, like, they've taken a break to work with you, and then they're going to come back and work with me eventually. And sure enough, when you teach them how to sing with a more relaxed voice, they come back, even if they're not taking lessons with me yet. Every time they send me messages and they're like, oh, my screams are already getting so much better. And it's like,
just with the singing lessons, right? Oh, amazing. Yeah. They've been telling me that also. I just had a question of a student of yours that switched to me, and I was not sure how to answer it this week.
Oh, what was the question?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Let me get it.
Do you remember who it was?
Yeah, I know. Wow, of course I do. I'm not gonna say it in the video.
Oh, I mean, I think you could. I mean, it's just a first name, right? I think you could.
It's the other Mark.
Oh yeah.
He was telling me. Question for you, and this is a bit more related to the screaming side of my lessons, but any tips on how to get the growl like Christina Aguilera does down? I've been having trouble getting my arytenoids activated. So I told him, because I'm able to kind of get that growl live just during the shows. I'm not able in the studio. I don't know why. I'm not able on command, but with the adrenaline, it happens. And I told him that it always happens when I'm super twangy. Like super twangy. And then I'm just able to kind of get my false vocal cords to have a little bit of constriction, but not effect because there's not a lot of airflow coming out. So I just told him, check if you're breathy. If you're breathy, I don't think it's gonna work. What do you think of my response?
I think that's a good response. So what he and I are
Yeah.
working on, it's not anything that you're going to hear in this song, but we're
No.
working on these sounds. We're working on like those types of things. And
Yeah.
that builds on like, you know, this like, see skies, or like this, you know, I don't know a single like pop song by Christina Aguilera, but you know, sometimes you'll hear pops. I know she does it, but you'll hear pop singers, they'll lead into their own, you know, they'll like, and
Yeah,
now
like
I'm-
Beyonce does it too. That's
yeah.
just like,
And it's not,
before a riff or something. Yeah.
yeah, and it's different from like your normal false chord, and it's a deeper. You hear Lizzie Hale do it all the time,
Yeah.
and it's very popular in gospel music as well. Gospel music,
Mhm.
they've got their squalls and their growls and all those things. But yeah, it's this. That's the thing that I have found through teaching is incredibly difficult or incredibly easy. I've never had a student who's one or the other. They're either like
Ooh.
smacking their head against the wall, or they're like, okay, what's next? I'm like, dang, a lot of people would be jealous of you. But this is another example of how we can play with the level of pitch in our growls. We can have 50-50. We can have a little less. We can have none. You know, just all kind of depends. Nah, that's a lot darker and grosser than this song. But
Mhm.
as you saw with like the metalcore pitch down yodel thing, you can do it in all sorts of different spaces. So
Awesome.
I don't remember where I was going with that. So maybe we need to push play again.
Yeah, push play again. Let's just push play.
Hell yeah, let's do it. That's code for shush, Mark, you're rambling. That's
It's super interesting, but it's kind of becoming out of topic.
you know, I'll tell you this before I push play. My students who have been with me for a long time and like we've got like a rapport, sometimes they'll be like, you're rambling. And I'm like, oh shit, sorry. Because I do. All right. Here we go.
Elevator operator.
Oh! That's switched to like, oh wait, there's more. Oops. Okay. That switch to what was that, halftime, quarter time? That was sick.
A little bossa nova also.
Oh, bossa nova. You want to know
Just
something?
for like 2 bars.
This is off topic, but I have to say it. Bossa nova got robbed. Bossa nova got robbed because bossa nova is such a sick genre of music. It is
yes.
amazing. But so many people, because of like cartoons and comedies in the 90s, just associate it with elevator music now. Dum, 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 dum. And they're like,
That's
oh,
why they put it in the song. Okay, I don't even associate it with elevator music because I've studied jazz and that was my favorite semester. We did the whole
Oh,
semester
yeah.
just on like Latin styles, jazz Latin, and bossa nova was so nice, like so fun. So I don't associate it with that, but that's okay. I get why they put it in the song.
yeah, it's like it's like a whole bossa nova. It just has such a good balance of like groove, but being light at the same time, being mysterious but playful. It hits a lot of these vibes that not a lot of genres hit. So, like a year ago, I watched a like online documentary about how basically bossa nova got robbed, and I was like washing dishes, and I was like, yeah, that's what I think, but I didn't know how to say it. But
Mm-mm.
there were some really cool sections at the end. Like right when they got into that club, you could hear that sound from that yodel down. You could hear that sound through the scream. You can hear that, like, I guess we could call it a mix. Like a head mix with distortion on it.
Can you play it again? I was mostly listening to the music production. Sorry, because I'm also producing house music. So I was like,
That is, so oftentimes what'll happen to me is like I love listening to drums, and I'll be doing these reaction videos, and I'm just listening to the fills and the blasts, and then I'm
I
like,
forgot.
and I'm not a drummer. I just really like, and I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing a vocal analysis.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just so you're saying he's in mixed voice with the scream.
So I actually want your input on that. That's
Yeah.
so the way that I teach it is with a lot of like, and we both know that mixed voice is kind of a tricky term. But I teach it with, like, you know, the head voice, the chest voice, finding the space in between, letting the distortion start there. So I want to see what your thoughts are, because mixed voice is like your thing.
Yeah, it's my thing.
Like,
I love it so much. And I love to explain it and see the face of my student like, oh, I understand for the first time. I've been watching thousands of hours of other coaches on YouTube explaining it like all the wrong ways. And now I finally get it in like a couple of minutes. So yeah.
So that's why I'm interested. I want to hear. You're gonna have to kind of like listen through a lot of what's going on. But I'll do thumbs up when we're in the spot where we're kind of hearing it. Here we go.
Okay.
I love this part.
Yeah.
So underneath that grid, I hear like, now this is not like a mixed voice tone you would want to sing with. It would sound terrible in a song, but I hear, ah, ah,
really?
Ah. Yeah, it's airier. Ah. And when I do these vocals, I feel that, ah, hey, oh, oh, hey, oh, oh.
That's your high belt.
Yeah.
It's not your mixed voice.
Well, no, but again, mix is your thing, but sometimes I hear it more airy. And this is another thing. These pitch screams are another thing where it's going to really vary a lot person to person. It's going to vary a lot person to person. Like a lot of my pitch screams exist on my high belt because that's what I'm comfortable with. But this guy, his vocal cord connection sounds a lot looser and a lot airier. Right. And a lot more like, but like I could sit at the piano and I could find the pitch that he's screaming on. Like I could be like, boop, that's a B flat, or I don't know, whatever it would be. Right. You want to hear it one more time?
I think, when you did the example, it kind of confirmed what I was thinking. I'm not thinking it's a mix from head. I think it's a light chest voice. So like when you came back to your clean vocals, I mean, it was, we could say it's a belt just because it's high in your register and chest voice, but it was really light. There was no tension, and you're kind of like that. Like I'm in my chest voice, but it's I don't have any resonance really in the chest anymore.
Yeah,
it's kind of, I call it, this is a type of mixed voice. So you're right, but it's the type from the chest voice.
Yeah. Okay. So well, go ahead.
So we're taking the chest voice scientifically is just like your vocal cords are the thickest. Okay. And it's usually for male, especially it's your talking voice. And then you sing with that. But basically you started from there, and the higher you went, you just stretched them a little bit, but not so much that you're in head voice.
You're right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And mixed voice from the head voice is the opposite. We're already super stretched, so we have access to the high notes. However, it's a smaller tone because of the vocal folds are so thin. So then you add twang in it, and twang itself, that's so crazy. When I learned that, I was like, oh, twang makes your vocal folds more thicker. So you can stay in the head voice, and then you add twang. Well, adding twang, you have to remove all breathiness. It's not going to work otherwise.
Yes, that's true. Very, very true.
So basically, you apply the twang technique over your head voice. And then if you would put a camera, they become thicker, but they're still long. So that's the magic of it. because that's
Mm.
how you can have your mixed voice from head voice, and it sounds like chest voice from the outside.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So yeah, so it's just not the same type of mixed voice. So this is my, like, I'm almost on the verge of breaking in my head voice, but I didn't. It's still my talking voice, but there's like, it's not so belty that, it's not that one.
Mm-hmm.
That one is really thick. So, but both are chest voice.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
understand what I mean?
yeah.
So, yeah.
One thing I find really interesting about these screams is that if you were to line up 10 people, they would all sound a little different. Some people sound like they're doing it on top of their break. Some people, okay, here's a vocalist we both know. We both know him. I can't remember his name. We both love him. You met him, Dirty Loops guy, Jonas.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So a lot of people sound like they've got more of that like high voice behind it. People like me who are like very baritone, we tend to sound more like we've got like more of that, like you're describing better than I could, a lot of that chest underneath it. Some people sound like they're sort of right in the middle. And so one thing, again, when I teach these pitch screams is my students are like, where should I be? And I'm like, you should be where your voice wants to be. You know, we're going to do this. And maybe you'll find, you know, again, using these squares, red, blue, maybe you'll find yours like, hey! Maybe you'll find it, hey! You know, just kind of wherever you drop, wherever you'll be. And then from there, if they want to make it lower or higher, then we'll worry about it. But it's, for me, it's all about like, where does it exist naturally? Very holistic, I guess we could say.
Yeah, we really don't have the same approach, man. I'm like, what do you want? Okay, you're gonna have to do this.
Oh yeah, you know, one thing I've really learned since discussing with you is that like a lot of the pedagogy is very different. Very like for me, like it's very freeform, because if you sound cool and you're safe, then hell yeah.
Yeah.
You know, whereas with you, and it has to be this way, really. I used to give clean singing lessons, but only very basic ones. If people came to me and they were like, I want advanced singing lessons, I was like, get out of here. But just like basic singing lessons, or sometimes up to intermediate, I would give. And yeah, it was much more stringent. It was like, you're either on or off, you know, like that's.
Yeah, for sure. There's the pitch, the rhythm, but then even the vocal techniques. I mean, but I've always been like that. I was a kid. I was a teenager. My first vocal lessons, like I wanted to understand everything, and then I was just sometimes disappointed in the teachers when they were like, "Oh, well, that's how you should do it." But I'm like, "Yeah, but that's not how I want to sound. So how can I get to the sound?" And then there's been a lot of trials and errors, and then I got the sound, and then because I understood what I did, I was teaching it at the same time that I just unlock it in myself. I was teaching it to students, and they would unlock it. Like 10 years I've been searching for like that type of sound, and I just unlock a person in less than an hour, you know? So, but I think it's just, I don't know. I'm kind of but harsh vocals, it really can be dangerous. I think people can really harm themselves. So I think it's good that you're really more like, are you feeling good? No, trust your body and just listen to your body. Me, I mean, there's really just one way you could hurt yourself in singing. It's if you sing loud and breathy. It's like that's the main one, or like to get nods and stuff like that. But other than that, usually it's supposed to be safe. You know, it's like it's less dangerous, I think.
Yeah,
so maybe not. I don't know.
You know, it's as far as like comparing which one is more or less dangerous, I don't know. Both come with their risks, but you're right. Like a lot of my methodology, whether or not, you know, I teach a lot of beginners, but intermediate or advanced, it's low, slow, control, comfort. And then we lean in and we carry, like we focus on giving the student a baseline of comfort, and then we carry that baseline of comfort with us wherever we go. You know, and if your voice wants to sound a little chunkier, well, then your voice wants to sound a little chunkier. I think in harsh vocals, it's the way to go. I'm the type of person who I'm very rare to say like my way is right, but I think my way is right because
I'm sure your way is right. Yeah.
You know, it's well, go ahead.
No, I was just about to say, like, yesterday I had a student who was telling me like, oh, I just want to know what style is going to fit my voice. Then I just told him, well, we can really have fun singing so many styles. Like rock, country, jazz, and then a little bit of opera, and then contemporary pop music, and then I just told him like, you just started like maybe I don't know 6 months or 7 months ago. It's like that's so little in your vocalist journey, you know. Like
Hmm.
it took me really. I found my voice when I started writing songs. That's how I found my voice. I don't know about you. It's like
Oh, yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
otherwise you're just copying. Like
Hmm.
always. Like then when you really start, okay, I have this to say, and then I was just following my inspiration and where my voice would go naturally, and that's how you get your sound, I think.
Hmm.
With the
Yeah.
yeah.
A lot of the reason I sing the way I do is because that's just what made sense for the songs that, we were writing.
There you go.
One last thing I want to touch on. It's a little bit of a subject shift, but it's it's interesting how like the relationship between like vocal tract shape and registration and how much we both rely on them, but how differently they work. So like as we've talked about before, or I guess not differently they work, the difference in like the reason we're doing them. Because
Mm.
one thing that's really important in a lot of harsh vocals, we've talked about this before, is twang. But
Yeah, that's where we both agree for sure.
yeah, but interestingly enough, a lot of harsh vocals aren't using the vocal cords at all. So we're using twang more for the vocal tract shape, for the narrowing of the top of the throat. That high
Yep.
scream. Another example is that high scream that he's doing right now. I can't hear it isolated. So again, this could be a situation where depending on the type of his scream, there could be a little bit of vocal cord involved. But the high scream that I predominantly do and teach, because it's much more used in like gross music, this like very pitchless, this right? That sort of
Yeah.
sound, one of the main reasons people have difficulty with it is because changing the shape of the vocal tract from like a chest voicey shape to like a head voicey is really, really difficult. So one thing I have,
So that means that's gonna be my type of scream then that we have to work on, because me that's the thing I do best, I think, my high twang and like
yeah, maybe that's it. And the one thing I've never tried it. I don't know if there's a study confirming this. But one thing I've noticed is that students who are able to bridge their passaggio to move across the break smoothly, they tend to, in just my anecdotal experience, have an easier time with highs and moving into highs. For me, it takes a little bit of warming up, but I can smooth out my break pretty easily. It's gonna click. It's gonna click right now because I have to do my warm ups and drink my water and do my scales and yeah. But I'll try it. I'm gonna try it. I always start from top to bottom because I'm a dirty cheater, right? So I
it
go,
works. Yeah, it's smoother. It's easier.
it's easier.
Yeah,
But if I go like, let's see, I might utterly fail as well. But let's see. Almost at it, right? But when I warm that up, it's a lot easier for me to go, even though I'm not using the vocal cords, but I am using the vocal tract shape changes that come with it, which is kind of weird. I think that's kind of interesting, right? Like, and I think that really explains why a lot of students, when they take clean singing lessons with you, their pitchless screams work as well, because our voice is a lot more than just our vocal cords. It's the shape of the vocal tract. It's the airflow. It's the posture of the lips and the teeth and the tongue. So I don't know where I'm going with that. I just think it's neat, if that makes sense.
Yeah, very good. When you were doing your slides, just because I can help it, I can help but
Yeah,
give you a little
hit
trick.
me. Yeah.
Are you letting your body flip the moment it wants to flip in chest voice, or are you deciding to flip gradually in chest voice?
I can tell you exactly what I do, but again, it requires like warming up. For me, it's I can't just like do it. It requires warming up. For me, here's the way that I do it. And what works really well for me once I'm warmed up. When I approach, I've learned what my body feels like when I get right around that vocal break, and I also know roughly where it is. What I tend to do is I tend to shift very, very lightly forward. What I'll do is I'll shift very lightly forward, and I'll like, depending on what I'm feeling, either ease off the gas a little bit, or I'll add just a touch more air. one of the two, just depending on how it feels. I
Mm.
don't actually think about like allowing or disallowing the flip. I don't even think about the flip at all. What I think about is what vibrations do I feel on the front of my face and what does my air pressure feel like? And when I think more about that, then like just the other day, my son and we were in the car and we'll do like screams and singing back and forth. And he and I were doing sirens up and down because I just want him to get comfortable with his voice. And
Yeah,
like,
that's such a good thing.
you know, and I was smooth as butter, but I wasn't thinking about the flip. I was thinking about the feeling of the pitch and the sound like rolling up and down my face and the feeling of the airflow being channeled but not squeezed. If that's
Yeah,
long-winded. That's long-winded, but that's the way I think about it. But I know you're the one with the tips.
I mean, I would recommend you to never let your body flip for you. But you tell your body you're in control, like that's where, but you kind of told me that you know where your break is. So the moment you're entering kind of the break zone, you're tilting forward. That's the thyroid cartilage tilting. That's exactly what you need to do. That's very good. And then I wouldn't add more air. I would maybe think of a yawn just to kind of open. But you're the one who decides, okay, that's the part I need to be more careful, and then you flip.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you let your body decide, it's going to be too brutal. It's going to be, ugh. That's where you're going to have the breaks. And also in songs, you want to know, you want to be conscious, like, I'm going to flip. You know, it's not going to just crack and flip for me. It's probably not going to sound professional if you just let your body decide.
You know, and that's another reason why I love screaming so much, because I let my voice flip all I want. Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, so I'm telling my students, okay, now we know your break is there. That's a sentence. The singer is breaking on this syllable, but that's 2 notes further than your break. So you're going to flip 2 syllables earlier, but it's going to give the same effect, but it's going to respect your break. And so we have to, I do Google Docs, and in yellow, it's the head voice parts, and they know exactly what word the head voice is going to come in.
People don't know how much goes into these vocal lessons. They have,
oh yeah.
they have no
they work
idea.
hard in my lessons, but
yeah.
I had like coaches in my life that were too go with the flow, and I felt I was losing my money because I've been paying my lessons since I'm like 14 years old, and they were expensive. And so when I was just feeling I'm just in a room singing karaoke, and the teacher was just letting me finish my song all the time, I'm like, yo, stop me, like just get rough with me. And then I had other coaches who were like never giving up, and I was not even going through the whole song in the class. That's where I learned the most, and that's so that's kind of how I am. But I'm gonna let you sing the whole song if you're ready to sing the whole song, of course. But sometimes it's if I hear like so much stuff to work on, we're just like, okay, whoa, we're gonna focus on the first paragraph. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, even I've taken a long time ago vocal lessons where it was just 100%. Yeah, just go ahead and sing it. Relax. Don't worry too much. Don't think about it. And like that level of too loose and free, it's like, what am I paying you for? I could do this in my car.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know, it's like with harsh vocals, like there has to be an element of like free form, but you still have to stay on task. You still have to stay on target. There are certain things you can't negotiate. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, I can make this sound that's really cool, but the veins start popping out of my head. And it's like, well, then I don't care how it sounds. Like, you know what I mean?
It's not comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that's kind of, that's one of our shorter one of these 49 minutes so far.
49 minutes. That's short. That's still pretty long. But hey, we did it's so nice. I mean, we haven't talked about like singing. We've just been talking business our last call. So it's fun.
I know. Oh, I know. Like 90% of what I do off screen and not in lessons is just business. It's just like it's tax season. So I'm itemizing and product strategies, and it's boring. But yes, it's fun to shoot the breeze, as they say. Yeah. Any final thoughts? Anything last you want to mention before we wrap this up?
I really loved your first question at the beginning of the video, like what makes a voice sound pop,
Mhm.
you know? And another thing, and we say pop, but also it's really there in rock, like in rock country, like, but maybe less in jazz, maybe less in classical music. It's the rhythm, how
Mm.
precise the rhythm is. The rap section, even I was listening to the scream, even the scream is like on the grid, like
Mhm.
like super super sharp. And then I'm also like starting to produce songs, and I'm mostly a vocal producer, but I also produce with my musicians, and we put everything. Sometimes we have to move a little bit on the grid just so that it sounds like tighter, you know, like every back vocals, every na 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 na, everything's on the grid with the drums, na na na. And that's one of the technique to make it sound like super pop, I would say. And that's
Interesting.
what I noticed in Electric Callboy is like it's on the grid, everything. So sometimes if I get like students, they're really off pitch, of course we're gonna practice ear training, but sometimes really love to practice rhythm because they
Mm.
can get better already. That's the first thing they can get better at. And you could get a career just with an amazing rhythm and be a rapper, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, that's true. That's you could be an amazing metal vocalist where rhythm is incredibly important depending on your
There you go.
genre, but you don't need pitch because you're just
Yeah.
that's all you're doing, you know?
But if you don't groove, if you don't understand rhythm, it's not gonna work. So sometimes I feel rhythm is even more important than pitch. It's like the second thing. Pitch is the
Ooh,
second thing.
interesting.
Yeah.
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 Because I have students, they are always on pitch, but they're so off rhythm. It's awful. It's awful. It's like even more, it's harder. It's harder
Mm-hmm.
to enjoy. I prefer someone who has maybe 3 notes of register and that's the only thing, but they're so groovy and they're so on the rhythm and there's like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just my last thing I would say that makes something sound really contemporary.
Mm-hmm.
It's the
That was
being
a
super tight on the rhythm. Yeah.
that was a solid little fry tone you just did by accident.
What did I do?
When you were like, you know, but it sounded like really,
ah.
yeah, it sounded really balanced. It sounded really good.
Okay, I gotta go back in the recording and just
Yeah,
listen
you got to go back and listen to it. But that's basically it. So for everybody who watched this, hope you enjoyed this more podcasty format of video. If you're interested in learning your voice in pretty much any way you can, be it harsh, nasty sounds, beautiful, clean sounds, everything in between, check out our videos. Hit us up. We'll teach you how to do it.
Yeah.
And that's all I got. Thanks for watching.
And we managed the technology. Woohoo!
Hey!
Yay!
And with that, to all of you, many thanks, much love. I'm out.
Bye.